She didn't just disappear. She was erased. A top-performing student, a quiet girl with no enemies, vanished in a single night as if someone had planned it for months. But what no one knew was that Jennie was living a secret life. A life filled with threats, hidden files, and a stranger who always seemed one step ahead. So the real question is, what did she discover that was so dangerous? It was worth killing for. Because hours before she vanished, Jennie left behind one final clue. Something so disturbing investigators didn't release it to the public. And when you see what was captured in her last recording, you'll realize the truth didn't just destroy her life. It was meant to silence everyone who ever tried to uncover it. Welcome to Night Crime Stories Hub. Thanks to all my viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay tuned for daily true crime updates. Don't forget to subscribe. It began on a cold Thursday night. One of those nights when the campus felt too quiet, too still, as if something was holding its breath. Jennie Park, a soft-spoken 22-year-old student known for her routine and predictability, broke her pattern without warning. At 11:47 p.m., she received a phone call that would alter the course of everything that followed. Her roommate later said she had never seen Jennie move so quickly. No explanation, no hesitation, just a sudden stiffness, a whisper of, "I have to go," and then the sound of the door clicking shut behind her. CCTV cameras captured her leaving the dorm building moments later. She didn't look back. Her hands were tucked into the pockets of her oversized hoodie, her head slightly lowered as if she were bracing for something. Instead of heading toward the main road, the one she always used, she turned left, toward a dimly lit service street students rarely walked alone at night. Investigators later noted she didn't seem lost. She didn't pause or check her phone. She walked with purpose, as if she knew exactly where she was going. By morning, her absence became impossible to ignore. Her bed was untouched, still neatly made. Her phone, usually left charging at her desk, was nowhere to be found. Her roommate tried calling her several times, each attempt sending callers directly to voicemail. At 10:32 a.m., the missing persons report was filed. Detectives reviewing the footage played the final camera angle again and again. This camera sat across from the old faculty parking lot, its grainy lens catching Jennie as she stepped off the sidewalk and approached a dark-colored car parked at the edge of the lot. She slowed. She leaned slightly toward the passenger side window, speaking to someone inside. But the problem wasn't just the distance. It was the face. The footage glitched only in that area, an unnatural blur, a distortion that didn't match any other frame. As if the camera itself refused to reveal who was sitting inside. The lead investigator rewound the footage one final time. Uneasy. Whoever Jennie met that night didn't want to be seen. And this wasn't the only strange inconsistency the team would uncover. The investigators didn't waste time. The distorted CCTV footage from the parking lot had already raised suspicions. But it was Jennie's phone records that pushed the case into darker, more deliberate territory. Her final activity, an outgoing call at 11:47 p.m., matched perfectly with the moment she rushed out of her dorm. But when detectives requested information from the service provider, they hit their first major wall. The number Jennie had called wasn't registered to anyone. No name, no address, no history. It had been activated less than 20 minutes before the call and deactivated 4 minutes after. A burner phone, strategic, intentional, and almost impossible to trace. As officers dug deeper, they turned to the person who knew Jennie's recent behavior best. Her roommate, Lila. She sat on the dorm bed, clutching a pillow as if steadiness depended on it. Lila explained that Jennie had been on edge for weeks, double-checking locked doors, jumping at sudden noises, waking up from nightmares she never talked about. When Lila tried to ask what was wrong, Jennie always answered the same way. "It's nothing. I can handle it." But clearly she couldn't. While examining Jennie's voicemail inbox, mostly university reminders and family check-ins, investigators found a deleted file that had been automatically backed up to the cloud. The timestamp matched 2 nights before Jennie disappeared. The recording was short, only 9 seconds, but those 9 seconds chilled the entire room. Heavy breathing, muffled, as if the speaker was hiding or trying not to be noticed. Then a whisper, so soft it barely registered without enhancement. "You shouldn't have done that." No context, no name, no noise in the background. Just a warning that sounded less like a threat and more like a verdict. The detectives sent the audio to the forensic lab for voice analysis. Hours later, the report came back with a result no one expected. The whisper wasn't from a stranger. It was from someone Jennie knew intimately. And if that voice was telling her she shouldn't have done that, investigators needed to know exactly what Jennie had done and why she was so afraid to speak about it. The confirmation that the threatening whisper belonged to someone Jennie knew changed the direction of the investigation instantly. If the caller wasn't a stranger, then the motive was personal. And personal motives usually pointed toward hidden parts of a victim's life, parts that didn't appear in public records or casual conversations with friends. Detectives turned their attention to Jennie's laptop, recovered from her neatly arranged desk. It was password protected, but basic security wasn't what concerned the digital forensics team. They found an encrypted partition buried beneath everyday files, so well hidden that an average user would never notice it existed. Whatever Jennie placed inside it, she clearly didn't want anyone to see. It took hours, but when the folder finally opened, the room fell silent. Inside were dozens of chat logs spanning nearly 8 months. No names, no photos, only usernames and long threads of tense conversations. The other person's handle was simple, unknown01. Anonymity was clearly intentional. Their messages were clipped, calculated, and increasingly aggressive. "You think no one will find out? I can end this with one click. You don't understand what you're playing with." Jennie's replies told a more complicated story. At first, they were firm, cautious. Then slowly, they shifted into panic. "Please stop. I haven't told anyone. You promised no one else would get involved. What do you want from me?" Reading through the logs felt like watching someone slowly drown. Every week, every message, Jennie seemed to lose another piece of herself. She apologized constantly, even when it wasn't clear what she had done wrong. The tone was not of someone guilty, but someone terrified. Then came the discovery that reframed everything. Jennie had been meeting this anonymous person in real life. The stranger, she called him, always in vague terms, always in coded references. She never mentioned his face, his age, his identity. Only the discomfort she felt and the fear she could never shake afterward. Near the end of the logs, investigators found one final message. A simple line sent 2 hours before she disappeared. "If you come tonight, it ends." What exactly was supposed to end, and who had the power to end it, remained unanswered. The final message, "If you come tonight, it ends," left investigators with a chilling truth. Whatever Jennie had been running from didn't start recently. It had roots, history, and weight. And sometimes the past is far more dangerous than the present. The next morning, as detectives continued combing through Jennie's digital trail, an unexpected visitor arrived at the station. A young woman, early 20s, eyes swollen from lack of sleep. She introduced herself as Mia, Jennie's friend from her previous school, someone Jennie had cut ties with abruptly a year ago. Mia said she came forward after hearing about Jennie's disappearance on the news. Her voice trembled as she shared what Jennie never told her new friends. At her old school, Jennie had formed a mentorship connection with a staff member, Marcus Hale, a charismatic counselor who was widely trusted by students. What began as guidance soon shifted into something darker. Their relationship became secretive, inappropriate, and emotionally manipulative. Rumors swirled among students, but nothing concrete ever surfaced. Eventually, Marcus was quietly dismissed, the situation buried under administrative silence. Jennie left the school soon afterward. No charges, no public explanations, no closure. But Mia insisted Jennie lived in fear for months following the incident. She believed Marcus had been following her online, creating new accounts whenever Jennie blocked him. The tension only eased when Jennie changed schools and lost contact with everyone, including Mia. Detectives felt the weight of Mia's words. If Marcus had resurfaced now, it wouldn't be coincidence. Their suspicions deepened when a campus groundskeeper reported seeing a man near the dorms 2 days before Jennie disappeared. A man pacing, watching the entrance, then vanishing when approached. His description was vague, but the age and build matched Marcus Hale disturbingly well. Returning to Jennie's room for a second sweep, investigators searched for anything she might have hidden intentionally. This time, they found it, wedged behind the false bottom of her desk drawer. A diary. Most entries were hurried, incomplete, written like she feared someone might read them. But what stopped everyone cold was the last page. Ripped out entirely, leaving behind jagged edges and a faint smear of something dark red. It wasn't ink. The missing page was nowhere to be found. The discovery of Jennie's torn diary page, soaked in something unmistakably red, shifted the case from disturbing to urgent. Investigators widened their search perimeter, hoping Jennie had left behind a trace somewhere beyond campus. It was a routine scan of phone tower data that finally produced the first real breakthrough since her disappearance. Jennie's device had pinged off a rural tower 30 minutes after she left her dorm, placing her near the outskirts of town, in an isolated stretch known for abandoned farmland. The area had only one structure still standing, a long deserted farmhouse swallowed by trees and silence. Detectives arrived just after sunset. The house looked dead from the outside, its paint peeling, windows fractured, yard overgrown. But the moment they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. Nothing here felt accidental. The entryway was lined with half-burnt candles, their melted wax pooled like frozen tears. Upstairs rooms contained scraps of paper charred at the edges, as though someone had tried to destroy something incriminating but lost nerve halfway through. The real evidence waited below. In the basement, the air was thick with damp earth and something metallic. Ropes hung from rusted hooks on the walls. A single chair occupied the center of the room, its legs uneven, its surface scratched. Behind it, half hidden under a layer of dust, officers found a torn piece of fabric, blue, soft, and unmistakably from the hoodie Jennie had worn the night she vanished. As the forensic team recorded the scene, one of the audio technicians paused, frowning at his device. A faint metallic scraping echoed through the room even though no one was moving. It lasted only a second, but it was the unmistakable sound of something heavy being dragged across concrete. The team followed the source to the far side of the basement, where the wall looked slightly uneven. When they pushed against it, a hollow thud revealed a concealed panel. With effort, they pried it open. Inside was a narrow crawl space, empty except for one object resting neatly in the center. Polaroid photograph. Jennie stared back at them from the picture, eyes wide, breathing visible in the cold air of wherever she had been taken. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 hours after she disappeared. The Polaroid from the crawl space changed everything. Jennie had been alive, terrified, but alive, hours after she vanished. That single photo tightened the investigation around the one name that kept resurfacing in every thread of her past. Marcus Hale, the disgraced mentor, the man Mia claimed Jennie feared more than anyone. And now, someone whose recent movements appeared far from innocent. Detectives dug into Marcus's whereabouts on the night Jennie disappeared. His alibi was simple. He claimed he had been home alone, repairing a leaking water heater. But the first crack formed when CCTV footage from a hardware store surfaced. At 10:56 p.m., less than an hour before Jennie received the mysterious phone call, Marcus was caught on camera purchasing duct tape, zip ties, and 2 gallons of gasoline. Items no one buys without raising questions. When investigators arrived at his property, the neighbors didn't hesitate. Several reported hearing strange noises 2 nights earlier. Shouting, something heavy falling, and what one described as a scream that didn't sound human. Others said Marcus had been pacing outside late at night, talking to himself, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to appear from the dark. Still, something about him didn't sit right with the lead detectives. When they brought Marcus in for questioning, he didn't act like a man trying to hide guilt. He acted like a man haunted. His hands trembled. His eyes darted toward the door as if he expected danger to slip in behind the officers. And instead of anger or defiance, he showed pure fear. When shown the Polaroid of Jennie, Marcus's face drained of color. He recoiled, shaking his head violently. "That's not possible," he whispered. He promised he wouldn't touch her again. The detectives leaned in. "He? Who are you talking about, Marcus?" For a moment, he seemed ready to stay silent, ready to let his life collapse rather than speak. But something broke inside him. Panic, guilt, desperation. No one could tell. Tears filled his eyes, and his voice cracked under the weight of whatever he'd been carrying. "You think I took her?" he cried. "I was trying to save her." From him, the room fell silent. Marcus was afraid, but not of the police. He was afraid of someone else. Marcus's final words, "I was trying to save her from him," shifted the entire interrogation room into a tense stillness. The investigators exchanged glances. If Marcus wasn't the predator, then who was him? And why did the fear in Marcus's voice sound so real, so bone-deep, that even experienced detectives couldn't ignore it? They pressed him again, and this time Marcus finally broke. He admitted he had contacted Jennie weeks earlier, not to threaten her, but to warn her. She had confided in him during their complicated past about someone she was secretly involved with. A relationship Jennie had worked hard to hide from everyone, even her closest friends. Marcus claimed she described the boyfriend as unpredictable, manipulative, and connected in ways that made saying no dangerous. Jennie never revealed his name, but Marcus remembered one thing. He always made her delete their conversations, and he told her if she ever talked, he'd ruin her. It sounded like fear disguised as love, control masked as affection. Detectives returned to Jennie's phone records with new eyes, searching not for strangers, but for familiar patterns. Buried deep in the logs, hidden behind deleted entries and encrypted fragments, forensic analysts uncovered part of a second number. Not fully visible, but enough digits remained to run cross-references through public and private databases. A match surfaced. The number was associated with the son of a high-profile local politician, Daniel Reeves. Wealthy, protected, and long rumored to have a history of violent behavior covered up by his family's influence. Several sealed juvenile incidents. Complaints never followed through. Witnesses who changed statements overnight. The pieces clicked together far too easily. Further data analysis revealed that Daniel and Jennie had been at the same locations repeatedly. Late-night diners, remote parking lots, empty parks, always at hours when they wouldn't be noticed. No photos, no social media traces. It was a relationship built on secrecy. And then came the most damning discovery. A text message, deleted but recoverable from backup fragments, sent to Jennie 48 hours before she disappeared. 8 chilling words. "You weren't supposed to open that folder." Whatever was in that folder had been worth threatening her life over and worth killing for. The recovered message, "You weren't supposed to open that folder," sent investigators straight back to Jennie's encrypted files. If she had seen something she wasn't meant to, there had to be more than chat logs hidden beneath the surface. Digital forensics specialists dug deeper, combing through shadow storage, corrupted thumbnails, and fragmented metadata. That's when they found it. A video file buried so deeply it had survived multiple deletion attempts. Its name was nothing more than a string of random numbers, but the timestamp placed it days before Jennie vanished. The clip opened with shaky footage, as though Jennie had set her laptop camera to record without anyone noticing. She sat at her desk, breathing fast, eyes shining with fear. "You said the photos were deleted," she whispered, voice trembling. "Why are you still threatening me?" A second voice responded, male, steady, chilling in its confidence. The speaker wasn't visible, but the tone carried an unmistakable edge of ownership. "Because you don't listen, because you keep digging, and because if you talk..." A pause, followed by a cold exhale. "You die." Jennie flinched. The screen shook. Then the file cut off abruptly, the rest overwritten. Voice analysis sealed the truth detectives already feared. The male voice matched Daniel Reeves, the politician's son, a young man with power, immunity, and a history of making problems disappear. Just as investigators prepared to seek a warrant, a new crisis erupted. Dispatch alerted the team to an anonymous tip. Someone had reported a body near the riverbank on the outskirts of town. The timing was too sharp, too convenient, as though someone wanted to shift attention or accelerate the investigation before detectives found the rest of the truth. Officers moved quickly, sealing the area with floodlights cutting through the mist. The body lay partially submerged, clothes torn, wrists bruised. Not Jennie. Relief washed through the team, brief and hollow. But when the coroner confirmed the victim's identity, every officer froze. He was one of the men seen in the leaked messages. Someone connected to the threats. Someone who had been pressuring Jennie online for months. Someone who suddenly died the moment investigators got too close. And if he was dead, then Daniel Reeves was no longer covering his tracks alone. For investigators, the discovery of the second body shifted the tone of the entire case. Whoever was behind the blackmail ring wasn't just silencing people, they were eliminating liabilities. And with every new piece of digital evidence, Jennie appeared less like a random victim and more like the one person who had come dangerously close to exposing the entire operation. As detectives re-examined her final known movements, a clearer and far more sinister timeline began to emerge. According to recovered messages, Jennie had planned to meet someone the night she vanished. She told a friend she had proof, real proof, and that once she handed it over, things would finally end. But her tone shifted abruptly in her last audio note, recorded just 2 hours before she disappeared. In it, she whispered that someone had warned her to drop it, and that she was being watched. The fear in her voice was unmistakable. CCTV from a distant street camera then placed her near an abandoned road leading toward the farmhouse, later confirmed as the crime scene. Tire marks at the site suggested she didn't go there willingly. Investigators reconstructed the scene. Jennie dragged inside, forced into a chair, confronted by at least 2 people. She fought back hard. Blood found smeared across the floorboards matched her DNA, and broken fingernails embedded in rotting would hinted at the brutality of the struggle. But the most unsettling discovery came from luminol scans showing drag marks across the barn floor leading out the back entrance, toward a gravel path, and tire impressions that didn't match the original vehicle. It suggested someone else arrived after the assault. Whether they were there to help her or finish the job remained uncertain. Despite all the evidence pointing to a violent end, the absence of a body forced investigators to reconsider their assumptions. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase Jennie's final hours, and now it seemed possible those hours didn't end at the farmhouse at all. The shift came when a new witness stepped into the station, shaking, pale and terrified, claiming they saw Jennie alive hours after the supposed time of death. The appearance of the trembling witness shattered everything investigators thought they knew about Jennie's final hours. Their statement aligned disturbingly well with the inconsistencies in the farmhouse timeline. According to them, Jennie had stumbled onto a rural roadside just after dawn. Disoriented, bruised, but alive. She was clutching something against her chest, something she refused to let go of even as she begged the witness not to call the police. "They're watching," she had whispered. "Everyone is watching." Her desperation made sense when investigators followed the lead to a nearby motel, where staff confirmed Jennie had checked in briefly under a fake name. Security footage captured her slipping into her room alone, clutching a small bag and constantly scanning the hallway. She stayed only 43 minutes. What happened inside those walls turned out to be the turning point of the entire case. Digital forensics uncovered a hidden folder on her laptop, one last encrypted file whose decryption had eluded investigators for weeks. But with renewed urgency, they finally cracked it. What surfaced was a hastily recorded 26-second video that froze every agent in place. In it, Jennie was sitting in the dim motel room, hair matted, eyes swollen, her breathing sharp and uneven. She looked directly into the camera as if she knew it might be the last time anyone saw her alive. Her voice was a trembling whisper. "If they find this, it means they got to me." She explained she had escaped the farmhouse by slipping out through the back when her captor left momentarily. Before fleeing, she had triggered her phone's recorder and captured a partial confession, one that named people far more powerful than investigators had realized. She said she planned to send everything to a journalist she trusted. But someone else had found her first. As she reached to stop the recording, the camera angle shifted slightly, revealing the motel room mirror behind her. Investigators replayed the final second again and again, unable to accept what they were seeing, even though it was unmistakable. A faint reflection appeared in the glass. The shape of a person standing behind Jennie. Someone familiar. Someone already tied to the investigation. And with that single frame, the case slipped back into darkness, officially unsolved. If this case kept you captivated, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We upload new crime case videos daily. Until then, stay alert, stay aware.